Hi everybody, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with a post-match reaction straight off the back of a, quite frankly, dreadful day at the office for Newcastle United. We've been beat comfortably, battered by Unai Emery's Aston Villa 3-0 down at Villa Park. And, you know, it's the lads have been brilliant this season, so I don't want to go in two-footed, which is probably more than a lot of our midfielders did today. But, yeah, just a really, really bad day at the office. We're going to try and unpack a little bit of this, just give you a little bit of my take on the game, you know, some of the major incidents on it, and, you know, just get a bit of feedback from you guys as well. We are live as always, so feel free to jump in the comments, let us know what your take was on the game. Just before we crack on, if you haven't already and you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We'd love you to come on board. We're over 2,800 now, so we're pushing on to 3,000. Smash the button, come and join us. Loads of chats and stats on this channel, all Newcastle United based, normally good chats. This one might not be, but yeah, come and join us, and then drop a like on the video if you can. It really helps the channel grow. So let's get stuck in then. So there's some changes to the lineup going down to Villa Park today. One of the biggest notable changes was after his Paddy, which much talked about Paddy, Anthony Gordon was given a start. So we were all hoping that he would grab it with both hands. You know, the media probably hoping that he had a shit game. Sadly, he probably played more into the hands of the media. More on that in a second. Sean Longstaff dropped out of the starting lineup, which was a strange one because Sean's normally a mainstay. So obviously we had a midfield of the two Joes and Bruno, who has openly said he's been carrying an ankle injury, and Jacob Murphy continued in the front three alongside Gordon and Alexander Isak. And, you know, Miguel Almiron was back on the bench, which was great news in terms of that. He's our top goal scorer. He's been one of our main men. So it was good to see Mickey back. But, I mean, just from the first whistle, really, from start to finish, absolutely just nowhere near it, totally off the pace. Villa wanted it more. They were hungrier. They were more aggressive. Their big players were turning up and showing up. I think Ollie Watkins, you know, within a minute, you know, he breaks away from Sven Botman, who looked like he just couldn't handle the pace. You know, he's through on goal. He takes a shot. I think it hits Nick Pope on the side, I think it is, and it just hits the post. And there's the first warning shot within a minute. This is going to be a tough game for Newcastle United. I even said in our group chat that, you know, Trippier looked rattled. You know, even in the first few minutes, PK told me off. I think PK's in the comments here as well. PK told me off for saying it's only 4 minutes, man. But Trippier just didn't look himself. He looked rattled. He looked like he was worried about the pace. I know in previous shows before, Audie said, I think certainly in the cup final, they were petrified of Rashford's pace up against Trippier, and Watkins was causing so much trouble down that right-hand side for Trippier and for Shaw, just with those bursts in behind. But we just didn't seem to learn from that movement, from that run. And they showed you the montage before the game. That's the run the guy makes, and we still didn't seem to be able to get a hold of that. So as the game kind of, you know, goes on, we're second best every single ball really in the first half. You know, like I say, Villa are hungry. They want it more. Bruno looks totally off the pace. You know, they always talk about his ankle injury. It just didn't look like he was at it at all today. Joe Linton, again, a bit poor in possession. We massively missed Sean Longstaff's energy in the press in that midfield. So, you know, looking at that lineup there, you know, let us know what you guys think in the comments about the lineup. I'll get to your comments in a minute. I think Eddie got this one wrong. I really do. I think we needed Sean in a game like this. We're being totally overrun and dominated in midfield, which, you know, Di in our chat group was mentioned on a regular basis. These are the kind of games that I think we miss a number 6 or a number 4, as PK would call it, a defensive midfielder. The first goal is a prime example. Watkins pulls clear again. Great header back. You know, Ramsey's coming in. Nobody's near him. Shaw and Trippier are marking 2 men. I don't know where Bruno is. He runs at the edge of the box. He smashes it in the back of the net. Cracking finish. And Ramsey was brilliant. He was head and shoulders above all of our midfielders in that first half. You know, and you look at that and you think we're better than that. We're completely and utterly better than that. And we should have put in a much better performance than we did today. As PK says in the comments, that was utterly shite. We've got a comment there from George, who's just saying Man United must have felt this way when we bossed them for the 90. Villa by far the better team, absolutely 100%. I couldn't disagree with that at all. William saying he woke up at 3:30 a.m. to watch that. What a shame for you, William. Get yourself back to bed, mate. I think if you can get away from the nightmares. We've got Graham in the comments saying that we need to write this off and move on. There's plenty to play for. We deserve nout. I totally agree with that one, Graham. Villa probably given us a good beating before these 4 games. How many points? Maybe happy with 7. You know, well, we've got 9. Stay positive. No, I agree with that. I mean, I'm not going to go all in, as I say, because we're still sitting in the top 4, regardless of what Spurs do against Bournemouth later on today. We are still in the top 4. We have to pick ourselves up against Spurs next week, though. I'll get into that in a bit more in a second. But just going back to the game, so we're going at half time. I mean, just after the goal comes in, I think Isak has a chance. Lovely little swivel of the hips right down the throat of Martinez. Probably makes it look a bit harder for the cameras because he's a bit like that as a goalkeeper. But we really deserved nothing in the first half. Then they peppered another 2 or 3 shots at us. Pope makes a brilliant save from Watkins again, who breaks 3 of the back 4. I think Ramsey smashes one off the bar. I'm sitting there looking at this, think we should be 3-0 down. We're absolutely second best at every single piece of play here. It's just not good enough. It's not what we've come to expect from Newcastle United. And you could see Eddie and Jason Tindall on the sideline there, which was the picture on our thumbnail, just looking on, thinking, what the hell is going on here? But we go in at half time at 1-0 miraculously. And we're all thinking, Eddie needs to put a foot up somebody's arse here and try and figure out what's going on. So change comes second half, no changes at half time. Quite surprised at that. I think Dan Burn in particular in the first half. You guys will be thinking I'm having a vendetta against Dan Burn. I love Dan Burn, but he's not a left back. I've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And when you come up against a team that's got a bit of pace about them in the full back area, in the midfield, up and around the attack, he looks like a centre back playing left back, and he looked like that today. He was fucking atrocious today, Dan Burn. He was probably lucky not to get certainly, I think, a yellow card or red card today. He was like a pub team player. He was grabbing at thin air. He's pulling John McGinn's shirt and all sorts. He looked absolutely fucking stinking, did Dan Burn today. And for me, Dan Burn has to drop out against Spurs. Simply has to. Matty Targett, come on, didn't set the world alight, but he looked like a proper left back, and he gave us a bit more balance. I'd like to see Matty Targett start against Spurs. Let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. But yeah, Dan Burn was atrocious, but that wasn't the first sub that we made. Miggy came on and Callum Wilson come on to try and change the game. So we dropped Isak in behind. Lovely little bit of play to start with. Isak, a lovely cross into Wilson, who's just offside, but it was a nice little viewpoint again of those two can play together. And when they do play together, they have a bit of dynamic about them. So that was really good to see. But again, it was short-lived. Villa break again. Watkins beats that press yet again, beats that back line, slips in the back of the net. Thankfully, he's offside. We'll go back, we'll look at VAR, and he's offside by his shoulder. Very similar to what Wilson just did earlier on up the pitch. But it happens again shortly after. He makes the same run again. He's through again. At this point, I'm sitting thinking, who the fuck is marking Ollie Watkins here? Because I don't think Shaw or Botman have a clue between the two of them who's marking this kid, because nobody's anywhere near him. Yes, I know he's got pace to burn, but nobody is watching him. This is the best defensive unit in the Premier League, and today it had a complete and utter stinker. It really did. Obviously, Anthony Gordon, going back to him, he comes off for Miggy. Not good enough. If you're going to throw a paddy like that on the sideline, mate, about being subbed and subbed off again, then when you get your opportunity, you've got to make something happen. Not good enough. He's got pace. There's no doubt about that. He's got something about him, Anthony Gordon, but the jury is firmly still out. 40 million quid on the kid. He's come with a bit of a reputation. He's not endeared himself to a lot of people by acting the way that he behaved. I didn't have a massive problem with that. I know a lot of fans didn't as well. But when you get your opportunity, mate, you need to do something. And he did fuck all today. Running up blind alleys, too scared to commit the full back, too scared to get the ball in the box to anybody, too scared to pull inside and have a shot. So not good enough for me. I'm not going to subscribe to this view of we missed Alan St-Maximin today. St-Maximin has quality, but I think he would have disappeared in this game because we were so dominated by Aston Villa. He would have offered even less, possibly, than Gordon did. I actually think Elliot Anderson would have offered more, and I think he has offered more in that position. So, yeah, a massive bit of work needs to be done by Anthony Gordon in the training pitch and in games. He needs to start doing something, needs to have a shot, have an assist, do something, because I haven't seen enough so far, certainly after his paddy last week, to show that he warrants that. So just a comment in there from Andy, just saying Isak had no physical support. Again, Murphy or Gordon, didn't look up to scratch. Absolutely. I thought Murphy, to be fair to Murphy, he runs and he works hard for the team, but he just doesn't have that quality. And I think even in the defense today, he was getting beaten too easily. Was it Alex Moreno, the fullback, was just dancing around Trippier and him for fun. We made him look like fucking Roberto Carlos at one point. And just, that wasn't good enough either. I think Miggy would have offered more support there. Obviously, I know he's just come back from injury, so You can't just throw them back in there. But yeah, both Gordon and Murphy for me really poor today. Terry Hill saying outthought and outplayed by a better team and a better manager today. Could have easily been 6 or 7. I don't disagree, Terry. I think we could have got a real hiding today. And to be honest, we would have deserved every single bit of it. The lads have set such a high standard and raised the bar up to this level that when you don't step up there and you don't perform like that, people are well within their rights to make observations and comments about it. It's not panic stations. We're still top 4. We're having an unbelievable season. We love Eddie Howe. We trust everything that he does. I wouldn't want to be those players in training on Monday, or even if he drags them back in tomorrow, because I think he'll run them into the ground after that performance, because I don't think he'll be happy in the slightest. And he'll have every single right to as well. Got a comment there from Les is saying that apparently Longstaff has been poorly. Okay. That's why he didn't start, according to Jordan Cronin. And fair enough, mate. I was quite surprised Longstaff didn't start, I must admit. But yeah, if he's not been well, then fair enough. Just a little shout out for Longstaff as well, when he was fouled by Duran at the end of the game and he got up and called him a fucking bellend. That was possibly one of the highlights of the game for me. So well done, Sean. You can just hear his Geordie accent over the TV there. So we've got Channel Rice in. Personally, I wasn't expecting us to win all 3 away games, not with our current squad. I think we've done well, beating Man United and 2 tricky away games. Hopefully this drubbing will do us good. Now, I agree with that, Channel. I think sometimes you need these reality checks, the right word. Sometimes you need these reminders, probably, that you're not maybe there, you're not where you want to be. There's a lot of players in this squad who are still probably punching way above their weight in terms of where we are in the league and the performances and the results that we've got as well. And Eddie's squeezing every last ounce out of players that you don't think have that in the tank. So I think credit has to still be given to Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall, and the players for doing what we've done and getting to where we've got to this season. But we came up against a team today full of confidence, reinvigorated by a manager who's got them on the training pitch, just like Eddie Howe did to us. We did this to teams. We steamrolled teams when Eddie Howe came in. Same set of players that couldn't kick their own arse a few weeks beforehand. And then we flipped it and we turned it. And massive credit has to go to Unai Emery and Aston Villa and his coaching team and those players as well, for the way they've picked up and the form that they're in as well. I mean, they could finish the season easily in the European places. I think, looking at the way they played today, providing that Watkins stays fit, because outside of him, they don't really have much of an outlet. Very similar to was with Callum Wilson last season. Thankfully, we've got Alexander Isak this season, so we do have a little bit of an option there. But I think with Villa, if Villa keep going the way they're going, they're looking good for European places. And then if they invest in the summer as well, they could be a real threat next season with Unai Emery in charge. Gibbo's saying, yeah, bad day at the office. I couldn't agree more with that, mate. Yeah, I think that's a safe assessment of this. Brainwashed maniacs says to start with a CB, an LB, and a winger as a CM against a team that has been brilliant in the last few games. Yeah, I mean, you could question that. Brainwashed, absolutely. I think for me, the Dan Burn thing, I understand why he's in the team. I understand why you don't want to break up the back 5. But I think the time has come really to look at this logically and say there's certain games you'll get away with it and there's certain games you will not get away with it. And today was a certain game that you wouldn't have got away with it. They've got way too much pace in the play, full of confidence, youthful exuberance with likes of Ramsey, Watkins buzzing around the pitch and everything else. It was a big risk to play Burn today. I would have played Target because I think he's more naturally suited in that position. And I think, obviously, with him knowing a bit about the Villa players and the squad as well, might have given him a bit of an edge. But I would like to have seen Matty Target start today. I didn't put him in our preview lineup because I just didn't think that Howe would drop Burn. But I really hope against Spurs he gives him a rest, because I think Burn's possibly facing burnout as well. No pun intended. Because he has played so much football. And as a centre-back playing left-back, he does get around the pitch. He doesn't get up much, but he's constantly chasing guys way quicker than he is, and invariably does a really good job. I think today he was just a little bit exposed, to be fair. And I think if I was anyhow, I'd maybe take Burn out of the limelight for the Spurs game. Mark's in the comments saying, bad day at the office for us. There haven't been many. Want to give Eddie some ammunition to drive the players forward again, and also want to go back to the owners with, I think, as well, Mark, in the summer, and say, I need a left back, I need a number 6, I need a defensive midfielder, because those games are prime examples as to why you do it. Brainiac saying that Pope isn't in form. It's a funny one, that, mate, because Pope made some Brilliant saves in the first half. To keep us in the game, it would have been about 3-0 if it wasn't for Pope. But yeah, the last two, especially the third one, I think he should do better with that one. I must admit, I love Nick Pope, and he's been immense for us, and I cannot praise the guy enough. But the third goal looks a bit soft for me for a goalkeeper his quality. He gets down, it just kind of flicks off him and goes in the bottom corner. So yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I think, I'm not going to write Pope off yet because he's been brilliant for us. Yeah, Keg, absolute disaster, 800%. Absolute disaster. So Andrew's in the comments as well saying, let's not knee-jerk, bad day, move on, away the lads. No, I can't disagree with that, Andrew. I'm not knee-jerking it. I think, like I said there before, we've done a brilliant job to get where we are, the position that we're in, the performances that we've put in. But I think the running coming into the end of the season, the big games that stand out here are obviously Spurs coming up to St James's Park next weekend. That's a double win, that really, so to speak. So we can beat them and we can also screw their top four charge in all in one sitting. So that's a massive game for us. I think we need to win that. And obviously, we've got Arsenal at home as well, which I think is a huge game to keep us in the top four race. If we beat both of the North London teams, I think we're top four. I really do. If we lose both of them, if we lose them heavy, like we maybe did today, we could slip out. But listen, I don't want to say it, but if we finish Europa Cup positions, still been a brilliant season. But I'd much rather be playing Tuesdays and Wednesday nights next season than Thursday nights and then having to play Sundays again. I'm sure you guys are pretty much the same, especially with how much we've been in and around that picture for so long. So yeah, let's just hope that we have got enough to go over the line and finish this season in the top four, because I think we deserve it, to be honest with you, on the way we've played. And we've got, is it still there? Saying people will say Newcastle had a bad day. I think this is doing a disservice to Villa. They were incredible. No, I have not done Villa a disservice at all, mate. I think Villa were phenomenal today, and I think they have been for the last few weeks. I think, as I said, Emery's done a brilliant job there, getting the best out of players that were already there. Very much like what Eddie Howe did, for the likes of Joe Linton and Miggy Almiron and Sean Longstaff for us. Emery's done the same thing, for the likes of Ollie Watkins, for John McGinn. John McGinn looks reborn. I remember at one point John McGinn being linked to Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool and teams like that. Then he totally drifted off. And now he's showing again that player who can get up and down the park and influence games. And I like John McGinn. I think he's a great player, so it's good to see him back at that level. Obviously I'm Scottish by birth, so from a selfish point of view, the national team, it's great to see John McGinn back at that level. But no, I wouldn't take anything away from Villa today. I thought they were brilliant and fully deserved the win. Yeah. ASM would have fucked their heads up. Well, I don't know. I think he would have done if he got the ball, mate. But very much so. He's ASM is 50-50, mate. It's a roll of dice how well he impacts the game. I think he would have went missing today personally in that game. That was a game where you needed to roll your sleeves up and dig in, and that's not ASM's game in my opinion. He's saying that Emery has turned that into a great team. Absolutely. Roger's in the comments. Yeah, meh. Absolutely, Roger. Couldn't agree more, mate. Where were we today? First time defence weren't at their usual. All of them weren't. Do you know what? That is the worrying part, I think, because the bedrock of our success has been this brilliant defence, and they look shocking today. That they look so easily breached. And again, I'm not doing Villa a disservice there, but it was the same ball all the time. Just that ball through to Watkins all the time. And they didn't seem to be able to read it. There was a real breakdown in communication between Shaw and Botman. And I don't know whether it was because, like the cup final already said a few weeks back, Shaw was having to cover Trippier because of the worry about getting beaten for pace. I don't know if that is the case or not, but it just looked like Botman was kind of left a little bit on his own with Watkins. So I don't know if that was the case or not. Let us know what you guys think in the comments there. But yeah, it wasn't good, to be fair. And Kenk's saying there that there is a few wrongs. Eddie Howe isn't with some players. If Almiron is ready for the bench, he should be on the pitch instead. Murphy, second thing I've been saying, keep Burn off, and Target should be playing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the Dan Burn thing for me definitely has to be done. It really, really does. Hi, you two shares in the comments, mate. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, so again, just a really bad day at the office. And I just think for me, Villa deserved it more, and you can't disagree with that. I mean, I don't buy into this whole fabricated rivalry thing of Newcastle and Villa fans. There's a couple of little pubeless shithouses on Twitter who probably aren't even Villa fans, to be fair, who put pages up to try and fish and wind up Newcastle fans. I don't nibble at it. I just think the kid's a sad twat. But most Villa fans that I know proper Villa fans, likes of the boys at the Villa Park Pod. They're just good, decent lads, and that their club has been through the mill like ours has. We've walked a very similar line: shady owners, crap, mediocre managers, relegations, promotions, relegations. So I think for me, the Villa fans deserve the success they're getting right now, under this good manager. It's weird because, the two managers who went for the Newcastle job effectively or were in the owner's eyesight. Villa have one of them, and we've got the other guy who interviewed much better. And both teams are doing really well this season. So, credit to both of them. But yeah, I wouldn't take anything away from Villa. I think some of the fans will get a little bit over the top excited about it, but they just beat us comfortably today. I mean, I saw Ollie Watkins after the game talking very respectful. He said that Newcastle are a top side and they just didn't get going today. And I think that's a real good summary, really, of where we are. I just think that, as Vincent says there, we got spanked and outdone by our own game. I think that's what Villa did really well, and he thinks Eddie got it wrong in the lineup. Villa pressed us from minute one. They were in our faces. They did a Newcastle to us. And I don't think anybody's done that yet to us this season. So I really hope that that's not a formula of how to play against us, because if that's the case, we are going to have to go away and we are going to have to make some tweaks. I mean, there were some chats I was having with some of the guys through the game about the 4-3-3. Is the 4-3-3 now a bit too predictable? Some of the play that we execute is very predictable. Certainly when someone like Murphy's there, Miggy does this too. You break down the right, you tuck it back for Trippier to whip the ball back in. And if the cross isn't there the first time, you kind of fade and then you go back and you tuck it back in. So all Villa were doing were blocking Trippier's crosses, and very rarely did he get a cross over into the box in that position. He was just pressed on, pushed out, and Villa blocked the play. And that was very predictable from Newcastle United. So for me, you need to go back to the drawing board and you need to maybe come up with a plan B when teams are trying to put it on you and figure out how you are going to play it. We've got a comment there from Shez. Before we went on this 5-game win streak, we also thought we'd be found out. The loss was shocking. Villa deserved the win, but we'll move on. No, I don't disagree with that, mate. Yeah, I think this is where Eddie Howe will show us what a good manager he is, Shez. I think he will go back to the training pitch. He will go back to the clipboard and he will figure out a way to get over this defeat. He's not a manager who just sits there and shrugs his shoulders and says, well, same again next week, unlike the other twat who had the job before him. He's not like that. This will hurt him. This will keep him awake. This will wind him up. Mrs. Howe will probably be saying, are you still up? Because he'll be pacing back and forward, probably muttering to himself about what's happened in the game today. So, I back Eddie get this right against Spurs. And Spurs aren't any great shakes. You take Kane and Son out of that team and they're bang average. So I think if they come to St. James's Park and the lads are right at it from minute one and the crowd is up, I think we'll beat Spurs. And then that puts this wrong right, to be fair. So, yeah, I'm not going to lose my mind over that at all. Comment F. Anthony, he's a Villa fan. Newcastle will finish fourth as a better than Spurs. I think you took the task facing you too lightly. Maybe you're right, Anthony. Maybe you're right, mate. I mean, maybe we just we underestimated Villa potentially a little bit. I don't know why we should have, because you've been in blistering form. I think, us and Villa have been the two informed teams in the league. So if we did take them lightly, then that's not a good thing by Eddie and his coaching team. But yeah, I just think that we possibly thought we would have had more time to implement our game onto Villa. And I just think Villa didn't let us breathe. They were straight on us, just that constant pressure, relentless pressure. It's the pressure that Eddie Howe's put on. It's the kind of thing Jurgen Klopp used to do in the early Liverpool days. And Villa were doing that today. Didn't let us settle. One of the big problems I think we had today, and again, I'm not making an excuse for the results or trying to take anything away from Aston Villa, but Bruno Guimaraes today was nowhere near his levels, nowhere near. This ankle injury thing is a real worry. For him to come out in the media and say it was a worry, because I was worried he was going to get targeted by other players, people coming in heavy on the tackles and stuff like that. But he did not look himself at all. His touch was let him down. His movement wasn't great. His awareness wasn't great. Those wonderful bits of play Bruno does when he wins your free kicks, he wasn't able to do that. The referee, by the way, was fucking terrible today. He gave Villa all the little bitty breaking fouls that just gives you a chance to get yourself together, that Newcastle were gasping for when Villa were on top. We were gasping for a little shitty free kick here or there, or a shitty little throw in here or there. He gave us nothing, this referee. I thought he was piss poor. He didn't referee the game any consistency at all. He gave Villa the same free kick that he didn't give Newcastle 2 minutes beforehand. So that's by the by. The performance wasn't good enough. But when you have a referee like that thrown in as well, that doesn't help you either. So yeah, that was a huge problem that we had today as well. Got a comment there from Ant, just joined after watching on his stream. We got away with it. It should have been 7-0. It's a good point, Ant. Do you know what else? We got away with it against Brentford last week, and we were shit in the first half against them. And I think the difference was Brentford almost allowed us a bit of time to breathe, to get back on plan and change the game with Wilson coming on, him and Isak playing up front. Villa did not let us do that at all today. They just kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Emery had actually said to them, don't let them get back in like Brentford did last week, because he would have watched that game, I'm pretty sure. And he would have put that into his players' minds. Comment from Williamson: Shaw was horrible. Botman as Burn on one side and Shaw on the other. Today, Botman looked overrun. He really did, William, to be honest with you. I love Fabian Shaw, but I have been saying for a long time now that one of the priority positions in the summer, which I think is the case, is a right-footed centre-half to play alongside Sven Botman. Shaw is still an integral part of this squad. There's no doubt about that, but he shouldn't maybe be the number one centre-half partner for Botman next season. That might sound controversial, but I just think there's times where he gets done, certainly when he's up against pace. And if we are playing Champions League football, he will get done against serious pace. And I think we need somebody else a bit more mobile alongside Botman to take care of business. I'm not trying to denigrate Shaw because he's been part of that brilliant back five, but today that brilliant back five looked like a Steve Bruce back five, to be fair, and that's a worry. I just hope this isn't the reoccurring trend that we're going to have coming in the weeks to come. I don't think it will, because I think the lads will put it right. But yeah, I don't disagree with you, Roger. There, yeah, the best team won, absolutely, mate. I'm saying there as well, taking Burn off at 68 minutes. He should have been hooked at half time. Yeah, Burn was absolutely stinking. Like I say, I do like him, but he is out of position. He's very, what's the word? He doesn't have the awareness that a left back has. And that's okay when you're dominating games and you're playing against teams that aren't giving you much trouble there. But when you're playing against teams that have got energy and pace and the ability to find space, then you can't really go into that with a Dan Burn at left back, because you are running the gauntlet. You really are. We've gotten away with so many games where Dan Burn has looked like he's being targeted by other teams because of Joe Linton's energy or Willock's energy. Willock wasn't great either today, to be honest with you. Touch was very poor, looked leggy. Didn't really run at people like he has been doing for the last few weeks. So I think overall the lads look really leggy, really tired, really lethargic. And they've had a lot of football, but they've been away on this warm winter break, so they should be a bit fresher. But that was a concern, that they just didn't look like they had the legs. And you bring in someone like Gordon, who's supposed to give you that, that squad variation, and he doesn't do anything today. So yeah, Gordon for me slipped right down the pecking order for that position. I just haven't seen enough from him. And today I just thought he was really poor. I thought, getting his chance after a tough week for him, I would love to have seen him grab it with more authority than he did, and I just didn't think he did anything at all today. Brainiac is saying that Isak Wilson had the best chemistry in the Premier League. Do you know what? There's an argument to start the two of them against Spurs. Brainwashed, it really is. I don't think Spurs could handle them. I think if you play them two up front together against Spurs, it could be 3-0 up in the first 20 minutes if they get the chance to get the ball down and play. Some of Isak's touches in that number 10 role, by the way, fucking hell, what a footballer he is. The cross for the chance for Wilson straight away, but then that bit where the ball, everyone was panicking, he just flicked it from his left to his right and he curled it. And, Martinez pulls off another save as well. Honestly, brilliant. Alexander Isak is such a good footballer. He isn't just a striker, he's just a great footballer overall. Shares the same. Matoma looks quite the player for Brighton. Would love to see him with us next season. We need somebody in there who can break up the play and help the lads out. I think if we had somebody to protect the back four in that side today, when that first chance happens for Ollie Watkins, I think they smell that danger and they drop 15 yards back and they give Botman a hand. I think that didn't happen because we didn't have that player to do it. So, people have talked about, you've got, Brainwash is saying he wants to go 4-2-4 with Bruno and Big Joe in the middle. We were talking about this in the chat, Brainwash. And for me, my problem is I don't think Joe Linton has the discipline to stay in that holding midfield role. I'm talking about, I suppose back in the day, you're talking about like a Batty, or you're talking about Declan Rice at West Ham, Kante, in his prime. I don't think that Joe Linton has that discipline, because he'll go for one of his charging runs and he'll leave you short at the back. I don't really want Bruno back there too much because it takes what he can do further up there. So I think, what Roger's saying there, he's agreeing with Kenk. He wants a defensive midfielder. This is what Kenk wants. He wants a top-class winger like Diaby. Midfield needs two players so it can rotate, a quality left back and a young, fast centre half. These are all signings I completely agree with Kenk, to be honest with you. And the club will have these in mind. There's no doubt about that. We've seen Craig Hope talking about this on some of his videos, and he's obviously in the press conferences and everything else. So for me, I just think that we do need to sign these players, and we need to make sure that they could be integrated into the team for next season. So we put some of these wrongs right. Comment from Liam there, we need to get away from the 4-3-3 again. We need to go with Isak Wilson up front, 4-4-2, the four of Bruno in the centre midfield, right of Murphy or Almiron, then ASM will go on the right, and Wilson and Isak up top. It's not a bad idea, mate. I do think we need to do something a bit different because I do think we are getting a little bit found out, to be honest, and I do worry a little bit about that. Peter saying Dan Burn hasn't looked right for 3 games. I totally agree with that, mate. Give him a rest and get Target back into the game. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't disagree with any of that at all. I think that that's the weak point for us is the Dan Burn position. I don't want to be singling them out, but I think the midfield is poor, and what was poor today. But certainly at the back, it doesn't look as tight as it has been. And hopefully the guys will put that right. Certainly in the coming weeks. But that's all the time we've got for on today's post match. Just wanted to jump on and have a quick chat about it. Thanks to everyone who jumped in the comments. Always great to engage with you guys and hear what you've got to say about the game. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. We'd love you to come and join us. We're over 2,800 subs at the minute. Loads more room for you guys. 2 shows. Mondays and Wednesdays, and pop-up videos just like the one you've just watched. So keep it ever more, guys. Smash that button, like the video as well, help get it around YouTube, and let's hope that the lads can put this right next week against Spurs. We'll catch you later, everybody. Cheers for that. Bye-bye. Have a great day.